Hey guys, it's Hannah and I'm here today with my August wrap-up and my September TBR. So my August wrap-up is actually quite long. I had a really good reading month and I'm also going to throw in a few favorites, but I have been hardcore procrastinating for this video, so let's just get out into it because this is already going to be a really late video, so I apologize. So first up in the month of August, I picked up Molokai. I was actually reading this in July and I was almost finished with it, but I had fully finished it in August, so I'm going to throw this in here. So I rated this one a 4 out of 5 stars. This book is fantastic. I have a full review I will link down below for you. This is about a girl who has leprosy and it's her story about how she has it and she is sent off to Molokai, and it's her life and her issues with the illness and her triumphs over the years and how this illness has brought her several things. And it's like a fantastic book. It is slow reading because it does jump around a lot, so it was easy for me to kind of like walk away and not want to come back. Also because it was so sad and there is a lot of death in this book that I am such a mood reader when I read something that is sad and stuff, that I take on the characteristics of the character if I'm like connected into the story. And so with a lot of death and there is a lot of sadness in this book, it just was hard to read at times, especially during the summer when it was supposed to be like happy contemporary. But I did rate this a 4 out of 5 stars. The book is so great and it works on Hawaiian heritage and the culture, and it explains all of that, and it's just a really cool read that I don't think there's a lot of other books out there like that. So if that sounds up your alley, this did read a lot like a biography, but of several people's biographies. So kind of keep that in mind, that there's a lot that happens to this girl. But it isn't a true story. It is by Alan Brennert, and he did an extensive amount of research, so I really appreciated that. But yeah, if you want to know more, just check out my review down below. Next up, I picked up The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue by Mackenzie Lee. This has been getting so much hype over on BookTube, and for very good reason. It's pretty fantastic. So I did rate this one a 4 out of 5 stars. This stars a bi-main character who is going on tour. So tour basically means backpacking across Europe. And he's going with his best friend and huge crush Percy and his sister Felicity, and it turns into a bunch of antics in an adventure novel, and it has to do with pirates and thievery, and it's a fantastically good time, and the romance in this is really cute. There's sass and wit, which is like such a high praise in my book because I love it. Like, that's something that I strive after in my books that I read, is if they have a lot of sass or wit done well, I really appreciate it because that's one of my favorite things to read from. Like, it gets me giddy when I read books like that. So this one definitely has it. It's fantastic, and I did rate this a 4 out of 5 stars. There's nothing that I docked this for. It just didn't feel like a 5-star read for me. But if you are looking for a fun, fast, great time that is so entertaining, I highly recommend picking this one up. I also have a link down below to this full review as well, which I go into a little more of the serious topics. Next up, I listened to the 3rd book in the Mistborn series. This is The Hero of Ages by Brandon Sanderson. So this book I did rate a 5 out of 5 stars, and I think this is the only book, maybe not, book actual, but maybe not graphic novel, the only one that I've rated 5 out of 5 stars this month, because I've been a little more stingy with my ratings, but this one just deserved it. The ending was fantastic. I don't want to give too much away, but the other 2 books I didn't rate as high because I am such a character-driven person that even now I couldn't tell you what these characters looked like. The only reason why I know what Vin and Ellen look like is because the characters on the book here, so that's what I thought of when I was reading it. But they like it, so they're not very character driven. It's definitely a plot driven storyline, but the plot is so good and the characters really popped off the page on this book, and it's such a good ending to this. I know there's other books that are later in the series, but this is such a good ending to this series, and the ending was perfect. There was a point in this where I kind of called the ending, but I was so satisfied with how it ended that it was fantastic, and yeah, this book, it was definitely my favorite out of the 3. So 5 out of 5 stars for this one. Next up, in the month of August, I picked up Mark by PC Cast, and I believe by the time that this video goes up, my review video will go up. And please don't take any offense to this, that I mean, I know that there's like a huge cult following in this series, that people love this book or this series, but this was just not for me. I loved the premise and I thought the idea was so good, I just didn't think the execution was done well. I didn't like the writing style. The way that she wrote was kind of crude and definitely on the younger spectrum of YA. It's the writing style and the humor of it is very young in YA, but I would never recommend this book necessarily to a young girl because there are some very adult things in this book. Go check out my review if you really want to know all of my thoughts on this book. I rated it a 2 out of 5 stars because I really like the magic. That's what sold this, is the magic system in this, and like the magic as her Native American heritage and the rituals that she performed. That's what I really liked about this. I liked that the school took place at night and that like that they were learning about like vampire heritage, which was cool, but otherwise I could care less that it was about vampires, and that's saying huge because I love vampires in my books. And this one just fell flat for me and it felt so tropey and I just was not a fan, so I will not be picking up this series. And I've got some major issues with it, so if you want to go ahead and check out my review, I'll link that also down below. Next up, I picked up Snot Girl by Brian Lee O'Malley, and I rated this a 3 out of 5 stars. Now this book is, like, the artwork is the highlight of this for me. This, like, is so beautifully done. I don't want to give any spoilers, so I'll do some of the first few. But I, like, love, I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see this with lights and everything, but the artwork in this is so cute, and I like just adore the artwork in this, but this was so confusing to read from. So this is like sort of a mystery. So this girl is a socialite and she is a miserable point of view. I really did not like reading from her point of view because she is so conceited. She's a fashion blogger, so she's like all about like the social media world, which I loved reading that part about. That was cool. Having all social media in a graphic novel was really cool. But she is so conceited and she cares about how she looks so much that it like was just a annoying aspect of her. But then she went from being so conceited to absolutely hating on herself. And it was just like huge up and downs, which I know is a real thing, like, so I get that she's very like real flaws in this, but it was just like so not fun to read from. And all of it, like, I liked they do a lot of like texting and stuff in here, so I liked that aspect of it. That was kind of cool, and I liked the other characters in this. But this book is sort of a mystery because she thinks that like something is like a murder has happened, and then it like flashes back and then she's not remembering things right because she's on medication. She's on like medication for her allergies, and so the allergy like things didn't happen that she thought, and she's just basically really confused the entire story because she's like, wait, I thought this person was dead. And so you as a reader reading from her point of view is so confusing. So I don't know how I feel about this. I really love the art style, and because the story is so confusing, I might actually pick the second one up because I want to be like, I want to know what the heck is going on, but it's not because I'm so invested in the story. I'm just like, I want to understand what happened because I'm confused and I don't like reading something and then coming out and being like, I don't know what happened in that entire thing. Like, I don't know what's going on. So that was my only thing, is that I might go back just because I'm so confused on what was going on in the story. So let me know if you guys have read this and what you thought about it. If you guys picked the second one, does it get solved in the second one, or am I still going to be confused at the end of it? Another thing that like irritated me in this book was that she went from being like the mean girl and like mean girl for the majority of this book, and then at the end she like all of a sudden is gonna be super nice to this girl that she's been awful to. Like she went from no character development to like way across the spectrum to turning a new leaf type of thing, and you're like, where the hell did that come from? So again, confusion all around. Let me know. Next up in the month of August, I picked up Peter Parker the Spectacular Spider-Man. And y'all know, if you've watched any of my Marvel Collector Core videos, that I am not a Spider-Man fan. I really am not, which is ironic because I'm wearing a Spider-Man shirt that I got in the Collector Core. Because I love this shirt. But I'm not a Spider-Man fan. I have never really been a Spider-Man fan. He's probably my least favorite because they keep redoing him and I'm just like, pick one and stick with it because I'm sick of switching and seeing the same story basically over and over again. I did like this past movie. I really liked this past movie. And guess what, guys? I actually rated this a 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed this little comic, and I was so surprised because I was not going into it that I was going to like it, and I really enjoyed this. This is such a refreshing Spider-Man, and I am seriously considering picking this one up because I enjoyed it so much. It's definitely a refreshed Spider-Man because he is not whiny in this one, which is fantastic. The text is really updated in this one because they talk about relevant things now. Like, they talk about Tinder in here, and I just, like, love that nod to being in this era because I feel like Spider-Man is, like, very past, and just with all of the movies being so far away, like, they were one of the first ones besides the Hulk that they were really making it big. And so it just felt like a new lease on life with Spider-Man, just like this new movie, so I'm hoping that this is going to stay fantastic. I really like the team-ups in this. We had Johnny Storm and Falcon and Black Widow and Ant-Man in this one. I just really, really enjoyed this one so much, and I really liked like the art style in this one as well. That's always key for me. If I don't like the art style, I'm probably not going to pick it up again because I read half of it for the art styles. So I really enjoyed this, and it's very, very cute. I'm excited to continue on with this because who knew I was going to like Spider-Man? No one. Also with this one, let me see if I can find it. With the Marvel Collector Core, so you always get, well, you usually always get the Spider-Man or like any of the graphic novel that goes corresponding with the box. And so with this book there, if you flipped into the pages, you got a free bonus digital comic, and I was so excited because this month was Star-Lord Volume 1 Grounded, and I will pop a picture up here. So I was like, hey, why not? So one, I've never really read a comic book on my phone from the internet, so that was really cool to see a digital comic book. I did rate this one a 3 out of 5 stars. It's like kind of falls in the middle for me. I really like the team-ups in this because it was Star-Lord and Wolverine. Star-Lord isn't in space in this comic book, so I wasn't real sure how I felt about that because he's kind of grounded down to Earth. So the comic book felt a lot the first movie of Thor when he's like grounded down to Earth and stuck without anybody with his friends. But I really liked the artwork, and the artwork was beautiful. I really liked the team-ups like I said. So there's Wolverine, there's Howard the Duck in this, there is Kitty Pryde in this, so I really liked all of those. But the only thing was there wasn't a lot of content, but again, this was a free digital comic, so I can't complain too much with that. But I definitely wouldn't spend like a ton of money on this. Like usually like these go for $4.99, and I am not about that life. I'm not gonna spend $5 for like 45 pages. So if y'all want to do that, go for it, but I am not about that life. So I really enjoyed it, and I give it a 3 out of 5 stars, mainly because there wasn't a lot of content, but I liked the premise of it, but it felt a little reused because it felt like Thor first movie. Going on with my graphic novels this month, the next one I picked up was The Unbeatable Squirrel Girl. This is the 4th volume in the series, and this is I Kiss a Squirrel and I Liked It. This story was very interesting. This was much better than the third one. The third one I was not crazy about. This one I rated a 4 out of 5 stars. So it's getting back to it. I used to rate all of these 5 out of 5 stars because they were fantastic, and I love the premise, and I love Squirrel Girl, and I still do, but I think they've just kind of fallen off the wagon and run out of content a little bit. But I still like the storyline. Don't let the cover fool you, because the artwork is not like that. The artwork is much more like that. So I don't know why this cover looks so like psychedelic. But this one was very interesting. I loved the idea of the choose your own story, because it starts off with choose your own story and you can follow certain speech bubbles for the story that you read, which is good in theory but not so much good in execution, so I was iffy on that one. She also does some dating in this one, which was fantastic because Squirrel Girl trying to go on a date and hide her tail was fantastic to read from. And of course her team-ups in here were always fantastic. She works with Ant-Man in this one, like, for a good chunk of this. And of course her team-ups are always fantastic in this. I loved reading her pairing up with several different Marvel heroes in here. But it was 4 out of 5 stars for me. So if you haven't picked up, at least pick up 1 and 2, because those are, so far have been the best. But this definitely feels like we're going in the right direction to get back to the Squirrel Girl we love. So after that one being 4 out of 5 stars, I was like, okay, I definitely want to pick up the 5th one now. So I picked up the 5th volume, Like I'm the Only Squirrel in the World, and this one was probably better than that one, I would say. So this one, I don't remember if I rated a 4 or a 5 out of 5 stars. I didn't write it down, but this one is, like, besides a few little errors, this was fantastic to read from. It finally felt like we were getting back to the one that we love, and this one, she works a lot with the Ant-Man, and this one, and she's kind of like moody, and I love when Doreen's mom shows up in these because they're fantastic, because her and Nancy are great, because who doesn't love your mom being best friends with your best friend, and you're like, what? So that is fantastic. I love this. The premise is that they fight against a guy who can split up in multiple, like himself in multiple little things. So he starts off as a one-size human and he can shrink himself and then break into a bunch of different ones, or build all of these little people into one giant person. So the premise is really cool in this one. I loved the team-ups with Ant-Man in it. And I'm excited for the 6th one, because I feel like the 6th one, like, we're slowly progressing, and I feel like the 6th one should be, if we're going in that direction, back to the 5 stars. So definitely check out the 1 and 2, like I said. And last but not least, I picked up Warcross by Marie Lu. I am lucky enough to work in a bookstore, and bookstores get sent ARCs for their booksellers to read the stories behind or before they release, so we can speak to customers about the new releases, which is so fantastic. And I, like, as soon as I saw this, I jumped at the chance to pick this up, because I loved Ready Player One, and this one is kind of geared towards Ready Player One vibes. So even on the front, ignore the cover, like, people were really hating on the cover, and I kind of agree. Like, I think she could have done something way cooler, especially with how cool the world is in this, that I think she could have done something much better on the cover, but not important. So the cover says Player, Hunter, Hacker, Pawn, and I didn't realize this was going to be a series, and I kind of got to the end of this and I was like, wait, what? So now I'm, like, anticipating the 2nd one. So this is about a girl named Amika Chan, and she is a computer lover. She is a programmer and a hacker, and there is this world called Warcross that is kind of like a virtual reality style, and it's so fantastic. So if you read Ready Player One, they go into this virtual reality as well, and that's the same with this one, so you're getting a lot of those vibes. The only thing that I would say is different between Ready Player One and this one is Ready Player One focused a lot more on the game. That one is a lot more challenge based, and you are more focused on this game and about the world than you are necessarily with this one. There's a lot more romance in this one than there is in Ready Player One. But this is fantastic. I rated this a 4.5 out of 5 stars. The only reason why I really docked this one is because the ending seemed a bit rushed, and the predictability factor was definitely there in this one. So that was the only reason why I got docked. I am excited though that there's going to be more books, so we will find out more of the backstory because it left kind of on it wasn't quite a cliffhanger, but the cliff was there and we had like just jumped off and then you're like, this is where I'm at now, and then you're dropping. So if that makes sense. So you find out, like, you have definitely like a closure type of thing with this book, but then there's definitely that point where you're like, now I have to know. I have to go back because I need to know what's going on. So I really liked this. The world is fantastic in this. The characters were decently developed. There was there's a few characters that were developed, but then the rest of them weren't. So that was another place where I kind of got docked, is that they weren't all developed, and there was quite a few characters in this book that could have used development. But the three main characters, sort of, were definitely developed, which I like, that knowing their stories and what was motivating them. But yeah, if you guys want to know more about my thoughts on this one, I will be leaving well, I won't be leaving a link because I haven't filmed it yet, but I will be doing up a review on Warcross. This one doesn't come out until September, so the month that we are going into, and I'm not sure what day September is, but I am really excited for the second book on Warcross. Whew, so that is all for my August wrap up. This is going to be a long video and I apologize. But I've read quite a few in August, and I wanted to run through a few of my favorites of August. Instead of doing a separate video, I just wanted to run through a few things. So first up, I wanted to go through a few of my favorite YouTubers that I've been watching recently. So Grace over at G Swizzle, I will pop a picture of her up here. She has been doing she's been doing daily vlogs or daily videos in August. And kudos to her, because that was a heck of a lot of work and she actually did it, and yeah. So go check her out because she is fantastic and she's so entertaining, and she is Marvel trash like I am. And another one that I've been really loving is Why Mermaids. If you guys haven't heard of her, I feel like she's kind of on the radar and she deserves way more viewers than she has. But she's definitely not like a low-level subscriber count, but she just deserves all of the viewers. So go check her out. She has great wrap-ups. She is a teacher, so she reads a lot of YA, but she does have other interests, so she reads a little more broadly than your normal booktuber that just reads YA, I suppose. And she's fantastic. Her reviews are great and her wrap-ups are fantastic, and she just like has this spunky personality, and I really enjoy watching from her. So those are my two main shout outs that I wanted to do for booktubers. And next up I've got just like my random favorites. So this is one of my random favorites. This is, I picked this up. I love this print. I have a coffee mug, and this one is one of my favorite coffee mugs. And I bought it at Barnes & Noble, and I saw that they had this one, and I like just loved it. And I was looking for a new journal to write down video stuff in. So this one's got books and cats and glasses, and I mean that's basically my life. And then on the back it's got books and cats. So what I've been doing is I've been writing down, oh girl, you can't even see that. I've been writing down my books I've read and the ratings and this little short summaries that I talk about in videos. So that's been really helpful, and I really love having a place that is just that looks clean, instead of my notebook that's like all of my random thoughts as I'm reading the books that I'm like flipping back and forth and I'm like, what is going on? So I've really been loving that one. Second thing that I've really been loving is I finally switched to an iPhone instead of an Android, which I've always had Android for my whole life. And I'm really enjoying my iPhone because, first of all, look at my cover. I don't know if you can really see it because I've got a pop socket. That's another favorite because that thing is so freaking useful. But I had to get this cover because it's rain clouds, and hello, that's me. So I loved that. And if you guys have seen how to read more video or something like that on my channel, I talk about an app that I was so jealous of because only iPhone users could use it, and I'm not gonna lie, that's the main reason why I switched to an iPhone is for this dang app, because they were not making it for Android, and that is the Book Out app, and it's fantastic. It's definitely made me read more. I you can set your timer and it tracks your reading, and then you can get stats, so you're like pages read per minute and how long you spent reading and how many hours and how many books you read, and it's fantastic and I love it. And you can also like take notes in it too and stuff, so definitely been loving that one. Thank y'all for real MVPs if you have stuck through this video, because I know this is going to be a long one. And I hope you guys are having an awesome reading month, and I will talk to you guys soon. Thank you for watching. Bye!